Fair enough. So the first topic of the day of the podcast of this episode, we should actually probably name the episodes at some point, by the way, or not name them, but like number them. Anyways, the point is the first topic is who is one player that has changed your mind or entrenched your belief the most in the preseason. And I revealed mine prior to turning on the record button. And as such, it is very apparent that I don't really change my mind after preseason, but I will be entrenched. I am entrenched in a quarterback that is unlike anything I've ever done. This is a leap of faith unlike anything you've ever known about me. I am entrenched in one Sam Howell of all players. And I got to be honest with you, it is merely because he's actually probably good, sort of, maybe. I don't know. It's super. Here's the weird thing. Sam Howell was like the number one prospect going into his sophomore year and his junior year. His junior year, he didn't play that bad. He didn't play that good. He was kind of treading water, and the NFL just completely fell out of love with him. I think it's in part because he kind of looks like Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield was flaming out at that point.
He does look like Baker Mayfield, and he also kind of plays like Baker Mayfield. Like he's a not super athletic guy who like runs around and he's doing stuff and he's doing too much.
I will say,
gives me Baker vibes.
I was once fooled by the like the player profile or stat sheet thing on him, like on the homepage of his player page. It says that he ran a 5.07, but it does say that's a high school metric. And I didn't realize that at the time. Oh my God, they've got a new one. I just looked it up. He now runs a 4.73. That is a 74th percentile.
What's
quarterback
that based off of?
I don't know.
They just pull, say. Like, do they just pull stats out of their ass these days? Like, why is he run a 4.73? Like,
I have no idea. But I have no reason to. I have no reason to not trust him because it confirms my priors.
But I don't think that he did that. Like to my knowledge, he did not run at the combine. And I don't believe that he ran the 40 at his pro day. So
the only thing of which I can be certain is that on this page right now, the experts at Player Profiler are telling me that he ran a 4.73, and I refuse to believe anything else. I have blind faith in Player Profiler's integrity in terms of posting workout numbers. I note now that they have workout metrics on one tab, high school metrics on the other. It never used to be that way. And the high school metric said he ran a 5.07, which is 7th percentile. And I was very not interested in his rushing ability. I was like, this is just a tryhard that can't move. And now he is probably faster than one Baker Mayfield, who I believe ran a 4.8. So, like, the similarities in there. 4.84 for Baker. Sam Howell's coming in at 4.73. Dude's a stud. That actually probably moves him up the list of, or up a notch in
You're moving up on a list. You're moving up a list because of a 40 time that you can't possibly say when it's from.
I don't know when most of the 40 times came from. I don't verify. I'm not out here verifying somebody else's work, especially on something like 40 times. I blindly follow. So when it confirms my priors, why would we double check it?
I mean,
I'm kidding. I'm not moving anything, but I will say that I did not realize originally that the 5.07 was a high school time, and that just felt really erroneous in hindsight. Anyways, Sam Howell ran for like 800 yards or something in college in his final year. He was really, really good in his freshman and sophomore years, was mediocre to poor in his junior year. And now he played one game in the NFL, and he was like mediocre to poor, but he was a rookie. And now we're into year 2 of the NFL. The Washington Commanders football team has announced him as the entrenched number 1 quarterback of the world. He's throwing to 3 to 4, fairly to possibly 5 fairly decent weapons, if not great. And I'm just kind of throwing caution to the wind. And part of that is in part due to his ADP, which last I checked was not real high. Where's he at now? Do you know?
I don't, because the site isn't quite updated. As of 3 weeks ago. That was where his ADP was as of 3 weeks ago. Oh, Wait, that's even more updated than I have it then, I think? Because 910. Yeah, 910, but that's 3 weeks ago. I would guess it's even a little higher now.
Yeah.
Like I traded Sam Howell away this morning for DeAndre Swift and a 24-second. And well, on this ADP, DeAndre Swift is higher than 910. So obviously, if that's at all indicative of his value, then his value is considerably higher than 910.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see when where his ADP ends up. But I think at this point I'm still buying. If we start getting up into like the round 6, 5, 4 range, then I'm
well, that would be nuts.
I'm going to start selling heavily.
Yeah, 910. I only see like one quarter. Well, actually, okay. So there's only one quarterback that I would prefer to Sam Howell on literally every single team, which is Mac Jones. Just because I'm like pretty confident that Mac Jones is going to be an NFL starter for several years, and I'm not even confident that Sam Howell's the starter in Week 12. But
well, I'm not confident he's in Week 12, but I'm confident he's going to rush for yardage, and then I'm also confident he's going to pass the football to 5 good to really good options, and I'm not sure what more we can ask for.
Well, we could ask for him to like hold the job of starting quarterback. I think that's important.
Right.
Fair. And then, okay, so I'm seeing Matthew Stafford ranked below him, and that's one where like, yeah, that's a team dependent case. Like, yeah, if I like happen to just like have Matthew Stafford on a team that is no longer trying to contend this year, then sure. Like, why don't I just trade him for Sam Howell? He's probably close to an expiring asset. And if Howell's good, great. I have my, part of my quarterback plans for the future now. And if he's not, whatever. I just took a dart throw off of Matthew Stafford's expiring value. If my team, like, especially if Matthew Stafford is one of my 2 quarterbacks and I'm contending, I would not be trading Matthew Stafford for Sam Howell because there's a pretty decent chance that halfway the season you now have 1 quarterback instead of 2 quarterbacks. So I would not be taking the risk of turning Stafford into Howell or Ritter. That seems terrifying for a quarterback who I expect to score a decent amount of points this year. But that one's a little more team dependent. So I guess I'm fine with Howell's price. I just still prefer Ritter straight up to Howell, and he's a little cheaper. But they're like basically the same bet. I liked Ritter more pre-draft, and he has better draft capital. And well, they both have good weapons. I was going to say Ritter has better weapons, but they both have good weapons.
It's alarming to me that you like Ritter as a prospect more than Howell.
I mean, they both like suck as prospects. That's why they were drafted in round 3 and round 5.
Yeah, but Howell once was good, and Ritter was never good. It was like a total like shift. Like Howell was bad for 1 year.
I'm like not sold at all on this. Howell was like some great college guy. Like he was well thought of at some point in time, and then he wasn't anymore. His like raw college stats are pretty interesting. He was still horrendous under pressure. He played in like a fake college offense. And then the NFL like judged him harshly for all of this context by drafting him in the 5th round. Like that's why you don't just look at college stats in a vacuum and preach the great word of Chase Keenum and Bailey Zappi and Gardner Minshew and all these other bums. We like wait for the NFL to draft them, and usually when the NFL drafts them in round 5, they suck. Like maybe Sam Howell doesn't. I'm not 100% sure that he's bad. I'm intrigued by Sam Howell. Like in best ball, I'm drafting him a lot. He goes like the last few rounds, has good weapons. He runs around, so I'm very interested. I wish that I had more Sam Howell. Like in hindsight, I definitely wish that I was just firing at him with round 3 picks, especially because I could be profiting right now. But I think like it's still he still doesn't quite cost maybe he does cost a 1st round pick now, but at any opportunity cost less than a 1st round pick, have no real objection to taking a shot on Sam Howell. But I think you should be taking a shot under the assumption that the most likely scenario is that he goes to 0 at the end of this year. I think you just have to understand that. Once you like talk yourself into Sam Howell being a foundational part of your team, I think you're like Wile E. Coyote. You're like off a ledge and there's no floor beneath you. You're just like sputtering in the air until you fall to your death.
Okay, I will get on board. I have Sam Howell on most of my teams where he's like my quarterback 4. So I'm like sitting there thinking like, oh man, this could be exciting. But if you are in a situation where Sam Howell is, say, your quarterback too, you should be terrified. That's not a winning strategy. Stop it right now
Yeah.
and move on to someone that's safer, like a Matt Stafford. I'd be totally into that if I was trying to win.
I mean, I would be totally fine with like having both of those guys. Where like, let's say you have one really good quarterback. Like, I don't know, name any top 10 quarterback.
Lamar Jackson.
Great, you have Lamar Jackson's your QB1.
It's a lot of pressure.
I'm totally fine with then like my QB2 is like a Sam Howell, Matt Stafford platoon, and it's like, okay, one of these guys probably going to be like a mid-range QB2. If you want to stream them back and forth for matchups, you can. If they both totally flame out this year, like you only have to replace one of them next year, that's potentially doable. And, you have some upside of just replacing Stafford internally with Sam Howell. That like totally makes sense to me. That's like the kind of context I'd want him. Both him and Ritter. I think that on all of my Howell and Ritter teams, with possible exception of like one team that isn't trying to win at all my teams that have one of those guys and is trying to win, they are either in a platoon situation with my QB2 with another QB2 option, or they're just clearly my QB3 or QB4.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. I'm willing to bet that Sam Howell is a lot more expensive than Desmond Ritter at this point, and I think that's probably erroneous. I'm not really sure why that would be the case. They should be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I find them to be pretty similar just in practice. Like, probably like a month or 6 weeks ago, I had done the Dynasty Rankings podcast series with Davis and Pat, and we hadn't gotten into discussion of Sam Howell and Desmond Ritter. And especially after that discussion, I came away like a lot more bullish on buying both of them at their current costs. Just like, well, one discussion that we had was really the difference between those two and Jordan Love and how insane it was, how much more Jordan Love costs when he has the worst weapons. He runs the least. All of them, our base assumption should really be that they're bad. And like the only thing in Jordan Love's corner was like draft capital from 3 years ago. And we already know that late first draft capital does not have a whole lot of signal. Like once you get outside of the first half of the first round, you're already just kind of in free for all mode. And so after that, I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I'm interested in these guys. Like, I would be willing to, especially on teams where I have like, if I have like a Derek Carr or Stafford as a QB3, like why don't I just try to trade these guys into someone with a little bit more value upside, maybe get a little asset on top. I tried to go on a buying spree. I couldn't really get either one of them. Like I got Sam Howell in one spot where I had the 109 and I was like on the clock. So it was like a Zay Flowers or Dalton Kincaid decision. It's a 0.7510 in premium league. So Kincaid was pretty in play. And I offered that and my 201 for a 24 first, which I expect to be probably mid, but has upside to being early, and Sam Howell. And that was one trade that went through where I was like, I think I'd rather have this 24 first than the 109. And 201 for Sam Howell seems totally fine to me, especially in this 2023 class. So that was one that I got done, but I really struggled to get most of the other ones done. Like I tried to do a lot of like, I'll give you a 24 second and insert like insignificant young player like Romeo Dobbs, for instance, like comes to mind. And I was like, no. And then, I tried to do like, I'll give you Derek Carr and a third for Sam Howell in a second. People were like, no. So I don't know. I think it cost that. I would never trade a first for either one of them at this point. And I think that's kind of the line that people mostly want.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some Sam Howell trades right now, and it looks like 821. So when's that? Yesterday, he was traded for a second. He was traded for a first. Traded for Roshan Johnson in a first. Traded for Aaron Rodgers straight up. Traded for McBride O'Connell in a second. And like it's Dwayne McBride, not Trey McBride.
So he's traded for a second.
They traded for a second. Yeah. So like if I could trade
for a second and the loss of 2 roster spots.
Yeah. So I feel like if I can make a trade where I'm getting him for like any second round type value, I would do it. And if I, like you said, if I could get out of him for a first, I would totally.
I guess there are at least 2 people doing that, but at this point, like Whomst is doing that. Like,
as many people are
I
doing
just feel
this
like
as
that's
they're buying for first. It's the exact same number of
yeah.
trades.
Well, I guess that's my point is that Hooms is doing either of those things, right? Like, I just feel like most of the Sam Howell discussions that I've had and Desmond Ritter discussions I've had is me being like, I'll give you a second, and then someone's like, I'll take a first, and then we just like walk away from each other.
I mean, it's a real life
I did
trade
see.
that happened.
No, I agree that those two people did it. Like, I'm not disputing that. It's just I'm also just, I guess, criticizing those people. Like I don't know, like what's the point, right? Like, you trade Sam Howell for a second. It's like, what's the point? Like, okay, I would have gotten trading Sam Howell for a second in January, right? Where it was like, he might not even start this year, right? Like, they might sign somebody, they might trade for somebody, they might draft somebody. Like, there was a lot of like landmines that he's already overcome where he could have just gone to zero before he ever plays a game for you. At this point, he's at least going to get a chance to start. So you're going to be able to start him. You're going to get points from him, and you're going to find out if he's good. Like, once you've already gotten to this point, like, just hold for two. Like yeah, like, I'm at least holding for two. Come on, like, you've already gotten 90% of the way to the promised land here.